Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode number 3 for KITAKUBU Bako. This is a series where I talk to fellow content creators about what they do, whether it's their hobbies, FGO, and anime, etc. Today, we have a really awesome guest. This is actually a guest that I've been really meaning to have a conversation with. Very first time, by the way. We're going to be talking with MP. How you doing, man?
Doing fine. Hello, my name is MP. You might know me better as Manpig, is what I went for a very long time. I do videos on Fate Grand Order, of course, but I also do general Type Moon stuff and visual novels and just general hobby things around whatever catches my interest, but it's usually Fate Grand Order.
All right, awesome. So yeah, I guess the first question is, what got you into like Fate Grand Order, or I guess the Fate franchise in general? Because I know you are a type of person that once you get into a franchise, you're just super hooked into it. Whether it's Fate, whether it's Gundam or other mecha robots, and I think recently you've been really getting into the Trails series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you are pretty spot on that actually. So this has always been a thing with me, is that once I do get into something, I go into it hard. I suck it dry for like 2 years or so, and then I just keep on doing that. I repeat style for whatever I get into. So this is actually a very long story because Type Moon is probably the very second like anime franchise that I've gotten into, period.
Okay.
So this goes back about more than 10 years or so at this point. Oh, it's been a little while. So this is going back to my origins as an anime fan. So I actually, I've grown up in Asia for most of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I've been surrounded by anime because for those who don't know, I come from Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, anime is basically just a way of life. It's part
Really?
of, it's, yeah, Hong Kong basically treats anime as like the main sense of media. It's like Japanese media
Interesting.
is more prominent than Chinese media in Hong Kong.
Oh
Like
wow.
there's with Hong Kong, you would be surprised. It's like it is majority a lot of people's hobbies center around Japanese media, which is why I'm also into Gunpla, because Gundam in general in Hong Kong is huge. Like it
Mm-hmm.
is, there's a massive scene of it. So because of that, I've always been surrounded by anime, but I never really got into it until my teenage years.
Mm.
And that was when I started building Gundam. And when I started building Gundam, that was my entry into anime as a whole. And once that happened, my friend, who was uh, my best friend for a long time, who will go unnamed, he decided, hey, I know this really cool franchise called Fate. So since I was new, he wanted to introduce me to it, and well, that was basically how it all began. It's like I was like, sure, I'm interested. I'll give it a shot. So the interesting thing is, you wouldn't believe this with how I am now, but when I first got into Fate, I got into it via Fate Zero, and it wasn't the best first impression.
Mm.
Yeah. Uh, uh, it's more just like me not really vibing with the story and also being very confused.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a whole thing about Fate Watch Order. It's not a debate that I really agree in any particular camp. I'm of the camp where as long as you enjoy what you're watching, you can start wherever. The issue is Fate Zero as a story wasn't really for me. So I didn't
Mm.
really get into Fate initially. However, through Fate Zero, I did get a slight interest of this general franchise. I was like, hey, I watched this show, so I might as well get deeper into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, when I was thinking of things to watch next, I was like, this Fate Zero anime seems to be connected to something called Fate Stay Night. I'll give that a shot. That was when I fell in love with Fate. So
Mm.
I checked out the Unlimited Blade Works anime and the Dean Stay Night anime, like from 2006.
Mm-hmm.
Basically around the same time, that was when I got into Fate.
Got
And
it.
after that, it just spiraled out of control.
Okay, that's actually really interesting. I mean, of course, Fate being huge and everything. Like, I actually know a lot more people that really enjoyed Fate Zero, and got
Oh
into the
yeah,
Fate franchise
absolutely.
with that. So like to hear your perspective on that is actually really interesting. No one has ever told me that, so that's really interesting because like for
Oh
me, like,
yeah, like
oh no, go ahead,
uh,
sorry.
I consider Phase Zero a fine entry point if you're aware of certain quirks about the
Right,
series. The issue
right. Mm-hmm.
that I had with is that my friend dropped me into it literally explaining nothing. And like
Oh,
I
okay.
did not know anything about Fate. I was as blind as humanly possible. I didn't know what Saber was.
Got it, got it.
I
Okay.
didn't recognize her.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the level of blindness I was going in with Fate Zero, and to say that I was lost would be an understatement.
Understood. Okay, and I now understand. Okay, that makes sense actually. But I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool. So you got watch Fate Zero. I'm sorry, get into the other Fate Stay Night animes. And this lore wise, did you start playing the visual novels after that? Like not just Fate,
Yes.
but like Tsukihime and Garden. Did you get into
Yes,
Garden of
so
Sinners?
that is also a gradual thing, but it's something that happened like way earlier than I started YouTube. By the
Mm,
time like YouTube wasn't really on my radar at this point. I was just like enjoying my hobbies. But
mm-hmm.
basically, after I watched all the Fate Stay Night anime at the time, Heaven's Feel had not released
Right.
by this point.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, I've heard about this third route that's apparently the best one. And because of that, I was like, oh, well, obviously I should try getting into the visual novel. So I decided to read the Fate Stay Night visual novel, which was also my first visual novel, period.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know me now, I love visual novels in
Yeah,
general,
no,
but
I
Fate
see you
Stay
posting
Night,
a lot. Yeah, and what's really
yeah,
crazy, like I see you posting like a lot of visual novels that like are from back in the day, which is insane because not a lot of people know about those franchises, which is insane. So I was like, wow, this guy knows about this. That's awesome.
oh yeah, like you said before, like when I get into something, I get into it hard. So
Mhm.
that's basically why. Like again, this is back when I was first becoming an anime fan. So everyone starts somewhere.
Mhm.
The thing is, when I start, I just go into it very, very hard. So because of that, I got into Fate. I got into visual novels the same way as that I read through the Fate Stay Night visual novel,
Mm.
and I loved this visual novel. Like back in the day, I think like this was like probably up there with like some of my favorite anime of all time at that entry. I considered Fate like one of my absolute epitomes of fiction. And then right after that, I read Fate Holotaraxia.
Mhm.
And then that visual novel changed my perspective. Again, I was like, oh, this is just a whole level above Fate Stay Night for me. I consider Fate Holloraxia personally a very underrated story in the entire Fate franchise.
100% agree with that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, because it's a visual novel only story, which is like obviously not everyone wants to invest the time or has the means to read a visual novel, especially since as of this current time, Holloraxia, I'm pretty sure is the only mainline official Type Moon work because Type Moon made Kagetsu Toya and the original Tsukihime in a Dojin era. In
Mhm.
terms of like official Type Moon, I think Holloraxia is the only non-officially published or will be at this point in the English language. So a lot of people sadly miss out on it. But to say Fate Holloraxia changed my taste in media would just not be a lie.
Mhm.
It genuinely changed the game for me.
Wow.
Holloraxia is probably the biggest influence I have on how I see media because it took everything I love about storytelling and made me go, "Hey, this is it. This is it." And like I like slice of life. I like character-driven stories,
Mhm.
and Horaxia takes all of that from Face of Night and amps it up to 11. I genuinely think most of the best scenes of Fate Stay Night's cast are in Horaxia because Horaxia gives the focus to these characters in very mundane like standard things while also telling a very heartfelt human personal story that's not as big scale as the Holy Grail War, but still something that is linked to it and is a story based on people. And I feel like that is something that I've connected with a lot of my favorite media. And
That wow,
uh
okay. Yeah, you're literally the first person that I've talked to when it comes to like Fate that has ever said that about Hollow Ataraxia. Like I feel the same way. I do think it's underrated. I think there are a lot of great points, like the points that you pointed out. Like I think there are a lot of great things about the characters and such like that. But yeah, you're the first person that has ever talked to me and told me that straight up. So that's a really cool perspective. And yeah, I think a lot of Fate fans should really get into Hollow because of that.
I mean, yeah, that's like I said. I think it is probably the most underappreciated Fate world, which is interesting because it's technically the second or third to ever be made. But obviously, again, it's a medium thing. There's no Fate Holorexia anime, and I feel like if it did somehow get an anime, I don't know how it would happen because unlike other stories, Holorexia is specifically non-linear for reasons I can't explain. But it's like it has to be a video game. Like as far as how to tell the story, to take it out of the video game media would mean to change the story in a way that is something I wouldn't be able to do. So
I see what you mean. I think I understand what you mean by that. Yeah.
But I don't know, because I think it's fine that people don't pick Holorexia up if it's not a medium that fits them. That's totally fine. But I urge people to give it a chance because that story is something else.
Yeah. But yeah, okay. But I mean, sticking with visual novels. I mean, again, I understand that you're really into visual novels. And do you have like a visual novel? Like, I mean, let's talk about visual novels today, actually, a little bit. So, like, visual novels.
Sure.
I mean, let's be really honest. It's not that popular as it is, or that it was back in the day, right?
No, yeah.
So
visual novels.
Oh no, go ahead.
They've kind of been superseded by mobages in the recent era, which is like because it's mainly of time convenience, right?
Right.
And this is something that I feel like has especially reared its head in current days because everyone's busy with jobs and everyone's moving on the go. Is that this visual novels, while you can save and take a pause at any moment, it is a lot of time investment. Like if I want to complete a singular section of a story or a singular scene of a route, it takes a lot of time to read through that, and I'm also experiencing that through myself now that I'm a more busy person. And because of that, I do understand that visual novels are a harder medium that requires more investment, so that's probably the reason why.
Right. But yeah, like, yeah, it's just like kind of sad because like I also kind of grew up playing visual novels here and there. I mean, I haven't really been keeping up with anything nowadays, but like some of my favorites are obviously from like the Key company.
Yeah,
you have like Two Heart. Like
I love Two Heart.
Yeah, dude. Like I can go on with the old visual novels, but like if you were to recommend a visual novel, that's not Fate. That's not Fate. Like if you were to recommend a visual novel to a newbie, what would it be?
Are we talking about other Type Moon visual novels or
Oh,
not?
okay.
No,
Let's exclude Type Moon.
No. Okay, let's make this more varied. So here's the thing: there are different ways of recommending a visual novel, or different types of visual novels I would recommend to a newbie.
Okay, I'm interested.
My first question is: do you want a visual novel that can tell you what the medium can do in a short amount of time, or do you want a big experience, like something that will stick for you and you're willing to sink the time to? Because my answer, depending on these two things, are very different. Because visual novels, they get a reputation for being very long.
Right.
And while that is justified, there are also a lot of visual novels that don't take very long. There's some visual novels that will at most take 10 hours of your life. Like you can some even you can complete them in a night. So because of that, my answer will depend on: are you willing, or do you want to sink a certain amount of time into a new medium that you may or may not like? If you don't want to sink a bunch of time, a shorter visual novel might be better in that regard. And in that case, my recommendation would be something like Planetarian or Eden. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
These are two very different visual novels, but their main common point is that they are very, very short.
Yeah.
Now, Planetarian is a visual novel that is, I think, purely good from a story standpoint because it is concise. It is a very simple story, but it is a story with a bunch of atmosphere, and it's a story that's a full package that you can consume in a single night if you wanted to. Like when they adapted Planetarian into an anime, they literally just made it like an OVA,
Yeah.
and eventually like a 1 hour movie.
I
It is
remember
very
that, yeah.
short story.
I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, because of that, I think Planetarian, if you want to see what the storytelling of visual novels can be like in a concise package, that's probably my recommendation. Alternatively, the other option I suggested, which is a visual novel called Eden, which is made by a company called Minori, which is a company that I feel like is extremely underrated, even in the visual novel community, because like visual novels are already niche, but Minori is niche even within this niche. Not a lot of people talk about it. But Eden is a visual novel I would recommend less for the story at hand and more if you want to see the visual aspect of a visual novel. So a visual novel obviously is a story that uses sprites and backgrounds to tell a story with a novel format. Like that's what it is.
Right.
But a lot of people sometimes ask, hey, but a visual novel tells a story, right? Why can't you just make it an anime? Wouldn't an anime be more like visually stimulating, or or a manga? Wouldn't that be more exciting? And while that is true in some scenarios, a visual novel has a different way of telling a story through its monologue. But also, the ways a visual novel can use sprites and can use backgrounds can look more gorgeous than any anime can ever touch. And Eden is the best short example of that. Yeah, Eden is the best short example of that, in my opinion. I don't know if we can post any images or anything, but if you've seen Eden's art, it is stunning.
Yeah,
like it is something that cannot be replicated with anime.
I'll post some of the screenshots. If you can send me those, I'll post them up. Like whatever you recommend. Yeah. So, but yeah, I completely agree with that. Like, I think there are just some scenes in the visual novels, like the artwork in the visual novels, that can never like even if there was an anime adaptation and they tried to translate that to anime form, it's just not the same.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the way some like things are like choreographed and sprited, like the way artists design these characters, by having to make them move in animation will make them more limited by nature. And that's what I think is the appeal of visual novels, is that you can get really, really pretty art that, because they are static, because they have comparatively little movement, while having a story that immerses yourself into this world using monologue and having that first person perspective, because that's another thing that a lot of anime don't have. Now, this is also something that going back to Type Moon does it a lot, because Type Moon has a format that's literally told in a novel format. There's two types of visual novel formats. There's ADV, which has like a text box at the bottom, and there's NVL, which has the text on the screen, like just fully on the screen. And Type Moon uses the NVL format, and that's because the way Kinoko Nasu writes a lot of his visual novels, it's written in the same format as an actual written novel, which is why the NVL format is so necessary for his visual novel works. And because of that, he's able to put in so much detail into how these characters think and what thoughts are going through their mind in every single second of a scene that an anime just never captures. And that's why I feel like a lot of like little nuances are missed out in any anime adaptation, and why a lot of like things that might seem questionable in or odd in an anime is explained better in when you get into a character's head. That's the strength of visual novels, that immersion you get to feel and put your feet inside these characters and see the world through their perspective.
Yeah, like that's like, wow, like you really get into this when you
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, I have a lot of thoughts on the on this medium, but I am very good at articulating my words.
But yeah, I mean, thanks for the recommendation. Yeah, for sure. Like, I think visual novels is very underrated for sure. Again, very time investment, but I do believe there are amazing visual novels out there. I mean, there are some new ones out there too that I think are great. So
Oh yeah,
I
recently there's an anime adaptation for something called Autry. The original visual novel I think is very good.
mhm.
It's that one's also another quick 10-hour one. So I don't know how long the anime is gonna be, but if you can't wait for the anime, definitely pick up the visual novel. It's very short and it's very good. So that's one to look out for.
Okay, got it. But
Yeah.
yeah, visual novels again are great. Like it's just like it might be a little bit hard to get into, but I think, and of course MP thinks as well. We believe visual novels are a great medium when it comes to like anime or anything otaku culture. But okay, let's put visual novels aside real quick, and this is actually something I wanted to talk to you about as well because you've been recently getting into it a lot. The Trail series.
Yes. Yes.
You
My newest
you
brain
recently
rot.
got into the Trail series, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Which game are you on right now? If you don't mind me asking.
I'm currently playing through Cold Steel 2,
Cool,
which
okay.
is halfway through the franchise, which is insane.
Yeah.
This is a huge franchise,
Yeah.
and oh boy, has it been an adventure so far.
Right. Yeah, I'm currently playing Revere right now. So
Oh, Reverie, yeah.
yeah, Reverie. I'm like I'm not
You're
even
nearly done,
halfway. I'm not even halfway. Not even close.
aren't you?
Yeah,
Oh, you mean halfway through
I'm playing it
Reverie?
on my own time. I'm playing it. But
I
no,
mean,
like
just to clarify, you mean halfway through Reverie, not halfway through the franchise, because the halfway through the franchise would be Cold Steel 2.
oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
my
yeah,
math.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not no,
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
not even halfway through Reverie right now. I'm still like in the
Okay. No,
beginning
that's
phase.
fine. That's
Yeah.
fine.
But yeah, like so why touch this series? Like it's in my opinion, and to many Trails fans out there, it is a very underrated JRPG. I think even in Japan it's very underrated. Because I mean, Nihon Falcom is more known
Oh
for
yeah.
Ys, right?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
well known
Definitely.
for Ys, and I mean, Trails just came out of nowhere on the PSP, cult following basically,
Mhm.
but why get into it now, and why do you think many other JRPG fans or just fans in general, the storytelling and character development should get into this, and like what do you expect for future games for this franchise?
Okay, so this is actually a very interesting topic and a very fitting one because the reason I got into Trails links into both the topics we've talked about. So we talked about how I got into Type Moon and also how I've gotten into visual novels. Now, Trails is a series that was recommended to me by fans of both Type Moon and another visual novel series called Utawareru Mono. Now, I don't know if you've heard of that or
Have you?
played
No,
that.
okay. I love Utawa Mono. I think it's underrated. I've been
Okay.
meaning to replay the games. Have you finished everything for that?
Yeah, yes, I am
Okay.
fully caught up with Utawareru Mono.
Okay.
I'm a huge Leaf fan.
Okay. Got it.
Utawareru Mono is the same guys made Too Hard. They make a lot of classic visual
Right.
novels like Shizuku and
Aqua Plus,
Kizuato.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, Aqua Plus. Yeah, I love those guys. So the Trails fandom is like almost like a Venn diagram with Type Moon and Utawareru Mono. And I have a lot of friends from uh my experiences through Type Moon and Utawareru Mono that also recommended me to start Trails.
Mm.
And especially had one friend who I'm not gonna name, but he's been with me for a while. Basically, he was willing to sit me through the Trails games and play it with me, and because of that, we played through the first game. And while it took a while, once you finish that first game, the franchise hooks you really,
Yep.
really hard
Yep. Yep.
because that's the whole biggest issue with Trails and with recommending is that the first game is by far the slowest one.
Hmm.
Like nothing really happens in the first game in comparison, but once you finish that first game, the Trail series ends up having one of the biggest worlds of any medium that I've ever seen in my life. And that's
Hmm.
why I also think the friends that I've made with Utawaru no Mono and Type Moon also like Trails is because these fandoms almost have like a shared appeal.
Hmm.
Now, one of the biggest reasons I love Type Moon and also Utawaru Domino are because of two things. They have expansive worlds with their own unique way of telling, of having things work in that universe. Like there's things that are completely unique to them, and it is extremely thought out and something you can dive deep into very, very far, as like no matter how much you can either enjoy it casually for the story at hand, or you can dive deeper, look into the lore, look into the wikis. That's something that both Type Moon and Utawaru Mono share. And another thing, and this is arguably more important, is that while they have that, they also have they are all tied together by characters, and having characters to tie you down to a story like or a big world adds so much. Like obviously in Type Moon, one of the biggest appeals is the lore, the magecraft, the magic, the mystical fantasies, the vampires. But at the end of it, when you get into Type Moon, these stories are told through Zero Emiya, Saber. You look into it through characters like Shikitono, who, in my opinion, is probably one of the most relatable people of all time.
Yeah.
Or at least, I getting into Type Moon, Shikitono was an extremely immersive experience for me because I felt like I was with him in his shoes, and that's why I got into Type Moon. Because, and we didn't really get into much, but Tsukihime is my favorite visual novel. Probably it's tied there with my other favorites. It's Tsukihime and Little Busters, but Tsukihime is my favorite Type Moon story of all time, and a big reason because of that is because I experienced the story with Shikitono. Shikitono is a character who learns a lot about this world with you. So when you learn about, or when he learns about something and he gets emotionally invested into something, you are there with him, feeling those exact same emotions with them, and everything that hits him hits you. And that kind of thing is the exact kind of storytelling that both Utawaru Mono and Trails also has. They have a lot of moments that the characters discover, and no problem. Yeah, and when the characters in the universe discover something, you're with them and you're having that big wow moment with them. And that's like the similar appeals of all three of these franchises, that we have very, very relatable characters that are introduced to this massive world with you. And because you get to experience this story through them, diving deep into these very expansive worlds becomes so much easier and so much more enjoyable. And I feel like if you like Type Moon, there's a very, very high chance you will like both Utawaru no Mono and Trails, because their appeals are so similar.
Agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I mean, it's just like, I remember touching. I can't remember which trails it was. I think it was trail. I think it was Zero. No. It was trail. It was Sky One. Like I remember getting into Sky One. Like you said, very slow. And then I'm like, after that ending, I'm like, I have to get into this. And then I remember
the ending is what changes the game.
Yeah,
quite literally.
Yeah, and because like I remember playing the first one, right? And then because it was on PSP and it was only in Japan only at the time, I didn't really follow when the next game came out, Sky 2. I never really followed that, so I put it on hold for the longest time. I'm like, dude, I really need to get back into this franchise because Cold Steel came out, and I at this time I didn't know Cold Steel was connected to Sky. I had no idea. I had no idea whatsoever. So I played Cold Steel. I'm like, wait, I know this character from somewhere. And then I'm like, wait, I have to really play from the beginning. So I decided to go back into Sky, obviously play, the Crossbell arc, and then get into Cold Steel. So, dude, Trails is just a fun ride, especially looking for, like, the lore side. Like, you find a book in, like, this, like, house or something, and it talks about, like, characters you'll see in the future games, which is like it's insane. Yeah. I'm like, dude, they planned this. That's insane how much they that's
ahead. What I mean by all of these franchises have the same appeal. Like you can consume Type Moon stories on their own, but they are all linked. And the Trails has the same things. Like Trails, Sky F's the Sky trilogy is self-contained, and Cold Steel. Not everyone would recommend you to start with Cold Steel. Like I will say, Trails has a more direct continuity because it is telling one story into the other, but these are separate stories and separate arcs that are all tied together with links and an overarching world that expands and connects literally everything. So the fact that you see this world through the perspective of the characters and you experience this with them and discover and meet these people with them, and by consuming prior entries, like, you get to learn more about the world as a whole. Like, you might start with Fate, right? But when you start with Fate, there are a few things that aren't really explained, like, oh, who's the person who helped out Sakura and Rin at the end of Heaven's Feel. I'm trying to be vague to avoid spoilers, but you can learn about them in other Type Moon works because yes, you don't have to know about this character in Fate to enjoy Fate. Like, it's a completely optional thing, but if you consume other works like Kara no Kyokai and, more importantly, Mahotsukai no Yoru, which is the first Type Moon work, you go, oh, I remember that. I remember this. This is all one thing, and the things that they show off in those stories are now relevant in the new stories, and that is still going on to this day with even Fate Grand Order, where they are tying in stories and characters from literally one of the earliest stories that nobody talks about called Notes. Like, we have the Black Barrel, we have Funny Alien, Ort. They're from Notes. Nobody knows about this.
Literally when I saw that Black Barrel, I was like, no way. Like, they're actually.
My mind was blown. That was like that was one of the most amazing moments I had as a Type Moon fan. I was like, they did not bring it back, this thing from 20 years ago that they've never mentioned again.
You and I think we're super lore heavy when it comes to like Type Moon. So for someone like us, we're like, dude, that's insane. But like, I remember talking to like a couple of my friends, not my friends, I'm sorry, a couple of like viewers, and they're like, what's the Black Barrel? I'm like, oh my god, let me take you back to something called this. So as a Type Moon fan, it's super cool to see stuff like that. It really is.
Yeah. Type Moon is so huge, and that's the thing, is like, I blame anyone for not diving deeper. Like, everyone enjoys things at their own pace. Like, some people are perfectly content with just consuming Fate, and that's fine. However, like, as I said, naturally I am a person who, once I get into something, I want to get into everything.
I get it.
So when I get into Type Moon, I get into everything, and I just urge people to try out those other works because you will find so much to love, and like, it is rewarding getting to see all those ties pay off. Like, they might not be major, but they do pay off, and that's like something that I love about Type Moon, is that with even Fate, you get characters like the Aozaki sisters, which are characters from Mahoyo, the first Type Moon work, and with Tsukihime, you get references from Notes, and even in Tsukihime, they're trying to tie that together with the El Malloy case files, and more recently, Fate Strange Fake. Now, Fate Strange Fake, because the anime has not aired yet, as of the time we're talking about this, but as we'll soon find out, or at least a lot of Fate fans are going to find out, Fate Strange Fake is not just a Fate work.
I understand that,
I'm not gonna spoil anything, of course, but Fate Strange Fake is quite genuinely the biggest melting pot crossover of Type Moon of all time. This is like probably as much of a crossover as you're gonna get than an actual crossover like Chibichuki or Carnival Phantasm. Like, you're like the first episode, or like the preview of Fate Strange Fake has characters from both Tsukihime and Mahotsukai no Hako, which is probably the most obscure mainline Type Moon work that literally nobody talks about. And it's just like, yes, you can enjoy Fate Strange Fake on its own, but it's going to be so much more rewarding if you check out those other stories and learn about these characters, so you can go, I know these people, I know why they're here, and I don't need to ask the question of why they're here and what they are able to do, because I already know from those other stories.
Yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I think the novel's supposed to end this year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, the
So
novel
yeah.
is apparently about to end, which is extremely exciting, and I'm also gonna be curious as to what's next, because
Mhm.
God, it's been a long ride.
Yeah.
Strange Fake has been publishing for as long as I've been a Type Moon fan, which at this point is about 10 years, if not longer.
Mhm.
So that's insane to think about that. Strange Fake is actually going to be completed soon.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. I mean, there are of course other Fate novels out there that
Oh
have
yeah,
yet to be
plenty.
completed. But like, yeah, for Strange Fake is definitely going to be pretty insane. Like, I'm actually pretty behind right now on the novels. But yeah, I've been meaning to
Same,
pick it up before.
honestly.
I've been meaning to pick it up again before the anime starts. But
I'm
after
planning
hearing
on
the
catching
novels
up
ending,
once it's done.
yeah, after hearing the novels ending this year, I was like, oh, okay, probably this year might be a good time to start reading again. So
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay,
especially with the anime coming out, like
yeah.
this is gonna introduce a whole generation of Fate fans
Mhm.
into the wildness that is Strange Fake. And once they start asking the questions, hey, where is this character from? That's how we're gonna get them into the
Yeah, yeah,
overarching Type Moon, baby.
yeah,
That's how we get you.
yeah. I can't wait to see the dude on the chair animated. I can't wait to see him.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But all right. So we're getting a little bit close to the end here. But I want to throw
Sure.
this out there. But have you ever played like Sakura Wars? Have you ever played the Shining series? Anything like that?
Shining series, no. Soccer Wars is on my list. It's just I have a lot to
Right.
get through,
Uh huh.
and I I'm currently going through the Trail series, and
Hmm.
I think that's been like halting a lot of my progress on a lot of other franchises
Uh
because
huh.
Trails is really,
It's
really
really
time
long.
investing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very long, and there's a lot of time investment, so that's kind of just taking up my media slots for like
Hmm.
uh it's done that for like the past year or so.
Yeah.
But once I get through that, I'll eventually get through Soccer Wars. I do really want to get into Soccer Wars.
Uh huh.
That really feels like it would be my thing. Like
I
it's got
I
robot,
100.
it's got
I
visual
think so. Like,
novels, RPG.
yeah, I think you're gonna enjoy the first three. I think it's gonna be super fun. The little knowledge here, but it's rumored that the third game, Sakura Wars 3, the opening animation for that one cost a lot of money. As in like maybe like 10, like I heard like maybe 3 million just to make that opening animation for Sakura Wars 3. I think maybe
I
a little bit
see.
more. But you're gonna enjoy it. I think that opening animation is gonna be enjoyable for you once you get into that. But
All
other
right,
than
well,
Sakura
I'll have to.
Wars, like what else are you looking, or what else do you want to get into?
Because because here's the thing is like a lot of the things that I'm currently getting into, I'm already trying to get into them.
Mm,
Uh, Basically right now I'm kind of like sort of taking a break on the visual novels because I've been doing it for like a few years and I'm like trying to like diversify so I don't get like too burned out.
right.
So right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to go back on I'm going back to my roots. I'm going back to robot anime. So I'm trying to get into through the Brave series. I've started I
Thank you.
finished.
Oh my God, someone mentioned it. Oh my God. Where are
Yes.
you right now?
Yeah.
Which Brave series?
I've only watched one so far because
Oh,
here's
okay.
the thing. I technically started Gao Gaigar way back in the day.
Okay.
Never finished it
Mm,
because I was really burnt out at anime at the time. But
mm,
now that it's like been a few years, I'm like, well, I'm back. I'm getting back into the uh, I'm getting back into the groove of watching anime. So I'm gonna
mm.
start watching the Brave series properly, and this time I'm gonna go through all of it.
Nice, nice, nice.
I've started and finished Brave X Kaiser
Okay.
this year.
Okay.
So the first one is down. I'm planning on going back to finish Gao Gaigar just because I already started it.
Hmm.
And then after that, I'll probably just go through whatever I feel like. But I do plan on getting through all of it. And another thing that I've been getting into recently, and this is going to be extremely, extremely surprising, is Pretty Cure.
Yeah, no, I no, I was gonna ask about that too because I know you're really into that right now as well.
Yes. So another thing that this is Pretty Cure is a story that's like even longer than anime. Like before I got into anime, I've been a fan of tokusatsu, like
Kamen
Kamen
Rider,
Rider,
yeah. Hmm.
Ultraman. That is the stuff that MP has been watching ever since I was like learning how to walk. That
Right,
has
right,
been
right,
through
right.
my life literally forever.
Favorite Ultraman?
And Ultraman Nexus.
Nexus.
Nexus. as a kid, it was too much for me, but rewatching it recently, I've grown to love it so much more.
Mm,
But aside from Nexus, probably Mebius as well, because
Nebius.
Mebius
Okay.
ties everything so well together.
Uh-huh.
But the thing with Ultraman for me is the way I describe my relationship with Kamen Rider and Ultraman and a lot of Tokusatsu is that Kamen Rider is very varied. Every single rider has its own unique identity, so you're gonna have very strong feelings of it. So
Mhm.
if you have a connection to one series, you're gonna really like it, and the potential for you liking that series is very high.
Yeah.
But if you don't like it, there's also a big chance you'll dislike it a lot.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Ultraman in comparison is a lot more episodic and a lot more consistent.
Mhm.
So while Ultraman doesn't always reach the highest highs of the most emotional Kamen Rider moments, it has a very consistent enjoyability. So I've rarely watched an Ultraman that I actively dislike. I actually don't think I do dislike any. Like at worst, I'm like, it's not as good as the rest, but it's still pretty solid. But yeah, Ultraman is a franchise that is I like for its consistency, and that's
Mhm.
something I do like in general. Is I like stories that are consistently good.
Mhm.
And the reason I've been getting into Pretty Cure is because recently I've been sort of feeling a bit of burnout with Kamen Rider. Like I've not really been connecting with a lot of the new seasons,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not like it's just a thing that like I said, Kamen Rider, you're either gonna really love them or you're not,
Uh-huh.
and that's fine. But because of that, what I've been getting into instead is Pretty Cure, and that's sort of like been filling the Kamen Rider hole for me because what Pretty Cure is it's just Kamen Rider but targeted
I'm
at young
talking to
girls
someone.
instead.
Give me a second.
That's all Pretty Cure is, and it has a more episodic story and it
Mhm.
has its own stories to tell. So I feel like once I like getting into Pretty Cure, this feels like the childhood that I never had. And I do not care about the fact that it's for girls. I will enjoy anything as long as it's good. And god dang it, Pretty Cure is good.
Mhm.
It does I don't care. Judge me all you want. Magical girls are awesome.
Nah, I'm not judging you at all whatsoever. Like I remember I'm not into Precure, but like I remember watching the very first one. I can't. It's just called regular Precure, I think. It's the one
Yeah,
with
it's
the girl in
Futariwa
the
Pretty
white and
Cure.
the girl in the black, right? If I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
Futariwa Pretty Cure.
Yeah,
You're Pretty Cure.
I remember watching that randomly in Japan when I was in Japan. I remember watching. I just wanted to watch anime when I was in Japan, so I remember watching that. And then I was like, dude, the animation quality for this anime is insane. I'm like, holy crap! I remember her like, I think it was I can't remember her name. The orange haired one, the black in the black.
Misumi Nagisa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Nagisa.
I mean, they would always reuse the scene, but like the scene where like she would like do backflips and land on the pole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Pretty Cure is done by Toei, and if
Right.
you know Toei, they are like the type of company that will put all of their budget into very specific episodes, and the rest of the show look very like have a lot of reused animation to save on budget. But when they go hard, they go extremely hard,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that is also Pretty
Yeah,
Cure.
like I mean, if you guys want to see animation quality, watch Puricure. I again, I'm not a fan of this franchise, but like they definitely put some work in their animation, like for sure, 100%. Like the
Oh
action
yeah,
scene,
the way I can describe Pretty Cure is that so a lot of stereotypical magical girls, at least back in the day, when we're talking about Sailor Moon
yeah,
and
yeah,
Cardcaptor Sakura,
uh-huh,
a lot of those franchises they have like magic wands and spells mainly
mhm,
because it's a magical girl. It's
right,
like they're gonna have like beams and stuff.
yeah,
Pretty Cure is like, okay, but what if we took that and instead of having that, we have them be tokusatsu heroes
yeah,
instead?
yeah,
What
yeah,
if they just fight?
yeah.
What if they just
Like fist fight, like
use their
martial arts,
fists and
yeah, you know,
fists and legs?
yeah,
That's all you need. And
yeah,
Pretty Cure does have beams and wands and stuff, but
mm,
the main form of combat is like tokusatsu, like they fight using their like martial arts, and
yeah,
that is the main point. Is that just imagine magical girls, but they beat the crap out of the bad guys
yeah.
using the universal language.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, it makes me want to get into Puricure now. Crap.
It's a slippery hole, but
Yeah.
I've been getting into it very hard, and
Wait,
if you like Ultraman, you'll like it a lot. I feel because
are they all
again,
connected?
the in the same way that Kamen Rider is connected. It's like you're
Oh,
not
okay.
gonna have any direct continuity,
Uh-huh.
but for a lot of movies and crossovers, they do exist.
Okay.
So you're gonna see recurring characters in the
The
crossover movies, and
movies. Okay, got
especially
it.
in
Okay,
like
got it.
you're gonna
Yeah,
get
I
more.
always wondered that. I'm like, wait, are these connected? Same universe? Or are they different
Pretty
universes?
sure in terms of like a franchise, like I said before, it is literally just Kamen Rider but for girls.
Okay, got it. Got
And
it.
that is a very gross generalization, but in a nutshell, that is what it is.
Yeah.
Like it is the same idea, but for a different gender target
Mm-hmm.
audience.
Right.
And
Right.
that doesn't mean you have to be a girl to like it. If you like Kamen Rider, you can like it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's great. I kind of, again, I kind of want to get into Precure now just because of that.
It's a long franchise, but what if you do want to get into Pretty Cure, and this is what I did, just watch the airing one. That's like an easy, casual way to see
Right.
if you can enjoy it. The
Mhm.
the new season, the one that's currently airing, is only like 9 episodes in, so it wouldn't be that much of an investment. But if you ever want to get into it, getting into a new franchise is probably the do it as it's airing,
Okay.
because especially when it's as long as Pretty Cure,
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to be able to binge a 50 episode series casually. So you might as well break it into chunks.
Got it. All right. Definitely. I'll look into that. All right. So we're actually going a little bit over right now, but I'm just going to go ahead and do
Sorry,
some rapid.
I talk a lot.
No. It's really interesting to like hear this, to hear your perspective on this, because again, I was really looking forward to talking to you regarding all these franchises, because again, like I feel like you have more knowledge, more insight on all this than myself, so I really wanted to get your perspective on all this. But before we end the video, I do want to go ahead and throw some rapid questions, if that's okay with you.
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah. Favorite Gundam series?
Turn A.
Turn A.
It's a simple answer, but it's the right
Fucking
one.
thank you, someone. I fucking love you, dude. I'm sorry for cussing, dude. You are the first person that. Oh my god. Oh,
really,
god.
I'm surprised. I see a lot of Turn A fans, but
No,
yeah,
I don't.
Turn A to me is perfect.
I don't see any. I don't see everyone, like all the people that that talk when I talk Turn A, they're like, oh, I can't get into Turn A because of the artwork or the how the Gundam looks like. I'm like, what?
It is a very weird design, but like when I am the person who always goes, I don't care how something looks, show me the story.
Yes,
and that's what
yes.
90% of what I judge. And Turn A has the best characters and the
Yes.
best story,
It's
and
so
just the
underrated.
best atmosphere.
So underrated, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite Gundam or mobile suit?
Oh, there's so many. Astray is probably the easiest answer. That's actually my first model kit as well. I got into it through the Gundam Astray.
Okay.
That was my first model kit.
Got it. Zeong or Federation?
Both are pretty terrible. I can't even lie. Both, like that's the whole thing about Gundam, is that both sides are kind of bad. If I had to pick, I guess I would pick the Federation, just because I like the gyms.
Got it.
And also, a few more people on there are sympathetic, but here's the thing is, most of the people in power in both corporations are really not great.
True. Sure. Okay. Super Robot Wars. Favorite. Out of, I mean, it could be OG or it could be like any of the collabs. Like which or favorite mecha series. We'll go with that. Other than Gundam.
Favorite mecha series.
Other than Gundam.
Or other than Gundam, Macross. I'd say probably
okay,
Macross is like very scarily consistent in how it tells its story. It has a very different theme to a lot of mecha, because like mecha is like a lot of mecha, especially the real robot genre, they follow Gundam, and it's like the whole war is bad. But Macross takes it in a different direction, and it's more like about people. It's more like a drama. It's more based on understanding and peace. And I feel like the way I can describe it is, if it's like mecha, but under the lens of like a key visual novel. Hope in humanity, essentially. It's very positive, and that's why I love it.
Got it. Favorite Trails character so far?
That's another difficult one. I would say my favorite one is Ren. I won't say too much, because Ren is a walking spoiler, but it would probably be Ren. But the thing is, she's basically in a three-way tie with both Estelle and Kevin, who are the protagonists of the Sky games.
Right.
But it's those three. But if I had to pick one of those three, probably Ren, because she has had by far the best and also most heartbreaking scene in the entire franchise. Has left me distraught.
Yeah, I can't again, like Kudo doesn't come out until this summer, I think, for us in the West. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her in there. Okay. Do you have any like all right, last one to the viewers out there, if you were to pick one franchise that you think is super underrated and they need to get into, what do you think it is?
This is probably a work that you have not heard of. It's a visual novel, and it's a basically a visual novel drama. Now, F is back in the day, it was seen as one of like the F.
Yeah.
EF.
Okay. Yeah.
Not a lot of people know about this. Back in the day, it was very popular, especially in Japan, but nowadays it's mostly forgotten. The reason I like F is because it has my favorite character in all of media, and the way
you're talking about, like F, the fairy, like something fairy tale,
the fairy tale of the two. Yes.
Okay.
It's made by Minori, who again I've mentioned before as the creators of Eden, but if like everyone knows Clanad and the company made it is Key, right? F is basically the equivalent of Clanad to Key that is for Minori. It's comparatively the most popular. Everything else Minori made is very, very obscure. But F is basically it's a collection of short stories that are like focus on romance, and these stories range from very mundane, like average day-to-day romance to very intense dramas that are really that can be very hard to read depending on your experiences in life. But the thing that makes F very good are, as I've said, one of the biggest things I look for in a story are its characters. F has one of the most human pasts I've ever seen in any story ever released out there. Not a lot of people paid attention to it because it's a visual novel. There is an anime adaptation, but the anime
I was gonna
adaptation
mention that.
It's not very good, or at least, if you view the anime on its own, it can be enjoyed. It's definitely a very well-directed story, but the anime kind of hurts in very specific areas, and those specific areas hurt the overall experience. Like, my favorite character of all time is the main heroine of this story, but her best scenes are not handled well in the anime, and that's what I feel hurts the anime the most, is that a lot of the best scenes just aren't delivered in the anime adaptation. It does have a lot of great scenes, so it's still worth watching, but watch it after the visual novel.
Got it. Yeah, I actually watched the anime. I don't remember much about it, but I do remember watching the anime on that, and I'm pretty like I think I did enjoy it, but like I can't, again, it's been too long, so I don't remember much.
It's very, again, not a lot of people know about F nowadays, but if there is one like story, I think that when you say this franchise needs more love, F is the first one, because literally nobody talks about it. Not even in the visual novel community. Like, this is already a niche medium, but even in this niche medium, nobody talks about it. And it baffles my mind, because not only is F really well written, but it's also insanely well produced for the era. Like, this is a visual novel that has more CGs than sprites. Like, then it has moving mouths, it has walking animations. What is this company? Like, me, when I read this, I was like, how did they have the budget for this? This was 2006 when it came out. It did not feel like a visual novel from 2006. Like, this is like something that's like a bit of speculation, but also fun fact. But a lot of the writers for F actually have ties to Type Moon.
Mm.
And
Yep.
like specifically Mikage got like special thanks for as far as Tsukihime, like the Dojin version of Tsukihime back in the 2000s. Like
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure they helped proofread that, or they had ties to Type Moon back in the era.
Right.
And when you look at Type Moon, one of the biggest things you can think of in terms of their visual novels is how insanely well produced Mahoyo is. And like Mahoyo is an amazingly produced visual novel, especially when you compare it to Fate Stay Night just like 6 years before. It's like, wow, what a huge gap. I think part of the reason Mahoyo is as good as it is because it based its style after F. Because F is like Mahoyo, but with less moving parts. Like it is a Mahoyo 0.5 almost because of how many CGs and how it's lit, how it's drawn. F is like you take Mahoyo, but you take the movement away. That's F. Like it, and especially for 2006, it is jaw-dropping how good it looks. Like I was like, what? This came out the same year as Clannad. How?
Wow, yeah, like
Yeah,
I've heard of F. I mean, I played like visual novels like Shuffle and stuff like that. So, wow,
this
okay,
actually one
yeah,
I
that's
want
pretty
to
crazy.
play.
Yeah, F, yeah, you're definitely right. Like, F is definitely
Underrated. Not a lot of people
underrated.
talk
Yeah,
about
like,
it.
again, I've never played it, but I've only watched the anime. But like, I always thought it was just popular because they got an anime adaptation. But I didn't think it was that underrated in my
I wouldn't disagree. Anime adaptations are what bring a lot of these IPs to rise. Like a lot of visual novels, you only know them because of the anime. Even Fate, as much as people have problems with the original 2006 anime adaptation, a big reason a lot of people learned about the Fate visual novel is because of that anime adaptation. Same with Clannad, same with Canon, same with a lot of visual novels. The anime tends to be what people check out first.
right.
But as I've said, when it comes to F, while the anime is good, the visual novel is the definitive experience. And if you want to understand why I love F so much, read the visual novel. Yeah, it's unmissable.
Yeah, definitely. All right, awesome. Well, we're going way over time right now.
Yeah,
but
sorry
I mean,
about that.
but no, all good. Like again, like I really enjoy talking with you. I would definitely love to talk more with you another time. I mean, again, like
Yeah, no,
again,
thanks a lot. It was an absolute pleasure to be here, and I love talking about stuff as well, as you can tell.
yeah, no, like again, like I think you have so much knowledge when it comes to these franchises, and like I mean, like even like like just having this conversation, like it opened up on my wow, I didn't think about it that way, and stuff. And then not only that, I think you and we definitely have like the same same taste in
Type of
hobbies.
like
Yeah, I mean,
interest
like
ways of
we
enjoying
love
things.
Turn A. We again,
Yes.
like, no one knows, like I think Turn A is so underrated. But yeah, we love like
Here's one thing that I've always said with my media consumption: knowledge only comes from experience. Don't and the only way to know about things is to just go in and experience it. Like, I don't consider myself someone who looks into things that deeply. The only reason I'm able to talk about things as deep as I do is because, again, I'm the kind of guy who will touch one thing and go through everything. I sweep the entire franchise, and that's the only and singular trick to why I know so much, is because when I got into Gundam, I go through Gundam. I go through everything.
Yeah.
And I've actually, at this point, I've watched everything that Gundam has to offer. I finished the franchise. That's the only reason I know so much about it, is because I've experienced it all. So knowledge, maybe I am knowledgeable, but I don't consider myself someone who looks for information. I just consume things. And that's, experience is everything.
Yeah, I mean but still, I still find it amazing that you know so much. And again, like I would definitely love to have this conversation again with you with other franchises as well. But
Yeah, no, absolutely.
when you, as you're watching the Brave series, when you get to Jade Decker and Golderon, let me know. I want to.
Okay.
I want to know your thoughts on those, because those two are my favorite Brave series.
I have already experienced Jay Decker a bit through Super Robot Wars. I can already tell I'm gonna like it.
Yeah, Jay Decker is so fun. It's so much fun. Oh man, you're gonna love Jay Decker so much. But yeah, Mike Gain too is really good.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love Mike Gain's design. One day.
All right. Well, once again, thank you very much, MP. For everyone that wants to give MP a follow, I will leave all his links down below. And is there anything you guys want to tell the viewers, or is there anything you want to tell the viewers about anything that you're planning to work on, or just want to talk about?
Not really particularly. Again, the main thing I want to say to people is that the only reason I know so much about things is because I try a lot of things, and I bet a lot of people here follow KitaSean for a lot of fake Grand Order stuff, and that's great. But if you can, try out more stuff. Try out more Type Moon. Type Moon is a huge franchise, and Mahoyo is great. There's a lot of lore, and just try out things. Like, knowledge comes from experience, as I said. So just experience things, and you'll find so much to love. Like, there's no downside aside from like maybe time to experiencing new things, and that's the best thing about media is that there's always something new to experience.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much. Really, again, appreciate you coming on the show. And for those who want to see more MP, again, all his links are down below. And we'll see you guys in the next episode. Thank you very much.
All right, no problem. Have a good night.